There's something interesting that you'll see in here, Numbers 21:6, and I have here two different translations. This is the New International Version and the King James, and they render this very interesting. We're talking about when the Israelites are leaving Egypt. I'm going to start with the beginning here. And when King Arad the Canaanite, who dwelled in the south, heard that Israel came by the way of the spies, then he fought against Israel and took some of them prisoners. And Israel vowed a vow unto the Lord, and said, If you will indeed deliver this people into my hand, then I will utterly destroy their cities. And the Lord hearkened to the voice of Israel, and delivered up the Canaanites, and they utterly destroyed them and their cities, and he called the name of the place Hormah. In Hebrew that means destruction. And they journeyed from Mount Hor by way of the Red Sea to compass the land of Edom, which is Arabia. And the soul of the people was much discouraged because of the way. And the people spoke against God and against Moses, Wherefore have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no bread, neither is there any water, and our soul loathes this light bread. And this is the important part. And the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and many people of Israel died. Now, that is very interesting, because we have here in this newer translation, Then the Lord sent venomous snakes among them. They bit the people, and many Israelites died. The people came to Moses and said, We sinned when we spoke against the Lord and against you. Pray that the Lord will take the snakes away from us. So Moses prayed for the people. The Lord said to Moses, Make a snake and put it up on a pole. Anyone who is bitten can look at it and live. So Moses made a bronze snake and put it up on a pole. Then when anyone was bitten by a snake, they looked at the bronze snake and lived. Now, I am as certain as I can be that this translation is incorrect. Because if we read it like this, that if we read these as venomous snakes that bit the people and they died, and then they looked at a bronze snake and lived, that doesn't really make any sense. I mean, I guess you could say it's a story about loyalty, because this whole bunch of stories about how the Israelites were not loyal. But I think if we look at the original, if we look at when they talk about fiery serpents, it makes a lot more sense that these are not snakes they're talking about. And I'll explain that in a minute. The Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and many people of Israel died. Therefore the people came to Moses and said, We have sinned, for we have spoken against the Lord and against you. Pray to the Lord that he takes away the serpents from us. And Moses prayed for the people. And the Lord said unto Moses, Make thee a fiery serpent, and set it upon a pole. And it shall come to pass that every one that is bitten, when he looks upon it, shall live. And Moses made a serpent of brass, and put it upon a pole. And it came to pass that if a serpent had bitten any man, when he beheld the serpent, of brass he lived. And it goes down, they're talking about the wilderness of Moab is where they come next, and Moab is also in this area around the Sinai and south of the Dead Sea. And I'm going to make a point here to you with this this twine, is that we're not talking about snakes. People today won't know what this means, but people back then absolutely knew what it meant, because there's only 3 or 4 places in the world today that have to deal with this problem, and it's mostly seen in Sudan and in southern Sudan, which is now a separate country. But it used to be an enormous problem in the whole world, just about.
Now, the Hebrew word literally means fiery serpent. It can also be translated as poisonous snake, or however you want, because there's a little leeway with how the language works.
But we're not talking about snakes. We're talking about a parasite called a guinea worm. And it's actually, this twine is actually a pretty good approximation, because it's a little thinner than this.
Guinea worms can grow up to 2 meters long. And the problem is lack of sanitation. People are using the water, the only available water sources they have, which are stagnant pools and things, as their source of drinking water and cleaning water and toilet water. And inside the water are little crustaceans. And inside those crustaceans are the guinea worms. You drink the water, and the acid in your stomach destroys the crustacean, but the worm survives. And it burrows its way out of your stomach and into your muscle tissue, usually in the leg. After about a year, once the worm has fully grown, about 2 meters long, and it wraps around your leg, then it causes an intense burning sensation in your foot. And you have an urge to put your foot in the water to relieve the pain. Once the worm senses this, it sticks its hind end out of your foot and releases its eggs into the water, and those eggs are then eaten by the crustaceans, and inside their bodies the eggs hatch, and the process begins again.
And what you do, once it pokes its rear out, what you do is you take a stick. And you can take a pencil, you can take a reed, you can take whatever, and you just wrap the head or the rear around the stick, and that's it. You don't want to pull it out, because most of its body will still be inside of your leg. So what you do is you just wait, and then every day or so you wrap it around just a little more, and just a little more, and you keep wrapping it around, and after a few weeks or months maybe, you will have eventually pulled the entire worm out, and it hurts like hell. And you're not going to find guinea worms in the Near East anymore. They're gone. There's just a few small places in Sudan and in Chad, and maybe in Uganda. But back then they definitely were here. They were in the Sinai, they were in Arabia, they were in the Levant. And when it says fiery serpents, and it says that you put the fiery serpent around a rod to cure the people, that is an exact description of what you're doing to cure guinea worms. And when you have a mass migration of people, and it says there were 600,000 families, and I don't believe that. It was probably maybe 10,000 people or something. And I'll get into the historicity of the Exodus another time. But in extreme unsanitary conditions, like the camps they had, it's prime breeding ground for guinea worms. And the story of the fiery serpents and removing them with rods was poeticized, I suppose you can say, in the book of Numbers, and that explains it so much better than saying that these were venomous snakes, which is why I think the newer translation is wrong.
This same process of removing the guinea worm, the same story from the Exodus, we also see in the Greek tradition with the rod of Asclepius, who was the god of medicine. And now we see that as the medical symbol, the Blue Cross insurance and things like that. We have the quote, snake wrapped around a pole. What it is a symbol of guinea worms.
I'm open to rebuttal, if any. Thank you for your time. Always love.